Representative Loonan, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Why did you decide to run for a state representative, and who was the first person you told when you decided to run?
I decided to run because of my community involvement in Shakopee, the area that I'm representing. And I've been involved in the school board. I've been involved in a lot of different civic enterprises and a lot of things with youth. So I've always kind of had my fingers in it. I've just not always been at the front table. I've always tried to be effective. And when Mike Beard, our current representative, decided that he was going to retire, I had a conversation with him and our former Senator Claire Roebling, and decided that now, personally, it was time. My kids have all graduated, and at a station in my life where I can put in the time to this that I'm assuming that it's going to take.
What legislative issues are you going to make your priority this session?
Well, transportation obviously would be one, very important to my area. The river creates a whole separate world for Scott County, and prioritizing funding for bridges and roads will obviously be something I'm going to constantly bring up. I come from an education background, and so effective education, of course everyone says that, but prioritizing programs in education against the priority of teaching students to learn. Not necessarily cutting or adding, but just taking a look at what we have right now, just doing a business model of prioritizing, and I'm not even concerned with who does that. And finally, I would have to say in the area of insurance, which has been my livelihood for 32 years, going through and making some sense between the relationships between the insurance carriers and the vendors, whether it's health care, home insurance, or auto insurance, adding a little more responsibility to the plate of the consumers in going around and bringing pricing back into those products.
Now, if you could offer up the first bill of the session, have you given much thought what that bill would be?
A bill I would like to prescribe would deal with, in auto insurance, the tort threshold, which currently in 1974, when we enacted the no-fault law, if your medical bills exceed $4,000, you now could sue the other party. And the intent of that, the spirit of that, was to eliminate frivolous lawsuits. That number has never been changed. I would like to apply a inflationary algorithm to that and see what that number should be today, and if not get to that number, at least start working towards it.
When the end of session arrives and you return back home to your district, how will you determine if you had been a successful legislator?
That's a really good question. Obviously I'll be going by feedback I get from my constituents, although I'm assuming that that's a minor group simply because as a constituent I rarely have ever contacted my representative. I never had a need to be the squeaky wheel. I think there's in governance, there's a direction rather than an objective that you get to, and I would like to control the speak, if you will, to step away from politics when we're in session and rely more on governance. One of the things I've already learned, just being a little neophyte, is the differences aren't so much between political parties, Democrat and Republican, as the priorities between metro and outstate, and strike a balance that will benefit all Minnesotans, both the metro area and the outstate area. And I'm convinced that that can be done.
What do you always keep on you, and why?
Well, I have a picture of my wife's a very calming force. I have a little stronger personality, and has always been the voice of reason. And when you said who was the first person I talked to, I actually talked to her before I made the decision on whether I was going to run or not, and asked her about it. Initially, she wasn't supportive, and just thought, well, something has to come off your plate if this is going to come on. And I've always enjoyed staying busy. So that would be it as a picture of her. Our family, we're really family people, and enjoy each other's time. And I actually look forward to bringing them over here once I get set in my office, just to see where my nest is set up.